Hello, is this working? I think so, yeah. Hi, just me again, Gus here. I thought today I'd do a bit of a sketchbook tour. This is an old sketchbook I did years ago, but it was a kind of a key point in my life where I was kind of learning a lot of skills and techniques and all the rest of it in my work, and I was out and about, sketching in the countryside and around England. So I thought it was worth going through, and obviously if it gets a good response I might do more, so I'll see where it takes me. So sorry, I'm in my studio here. Obviously I'm working on various little films and stuff, so you can see various stuff going on in the background. Yes, so shall we make a start? So this is first of all, I worked on this, obviously you can see the dates there, from 2013 to 2014, so we are talking about over a decade ago, which makes me feel a little old. I was in my early 20s when I did it, and now I'm in my early 30s. I quite enjoy the method of numbering the sketchbooks. I put in, I think, 6 originally, but I think I found an earlier sketchbook, so I updated the later ones to reflect that. I quite enjoy doing that method, because you can sort of see your progress, and you sort of almost start collecting sketchbooks like Pokemon cards or whatever, where you just sort of stack them up, and you can see the developmental, your journey. So it's like a diary in some ways, isn't it? So we'll go through the pages here. So we'll start at the first page. So at the time of this sketch, I was in doing a games development course, I think, in Liverpool. Hopefully it'll catch on. Sorry about is that going to catch on? There we go. Yeah, cool. So yes, here we are. So there we go, and you can see that there. Various sketches. I hadn't worked with moleskine that much, but obviously I've since now worked with moleskine quite a bit more, and enjoyed its properties, and quite enjoy working with it. Various goblins and things. Some sketches, more sketches there. Let's have a look here. Get this working. Yeah, so there's one of my little sister there. I used to go out in the countryside and sketch various bits and bobs. Obviously, I spent some time near where I lived. There was various, it's an old tip, and over the course of two decades, it had been filled in with grass and trees and bracken and all the rest of it. So everything had a nice look, and just taking little notes on various things, you can see here on tree branches, tree bark, and all the rest of it, and obviously looking at the houses and how they're arranged and situated. Here we go, next page. Just can see that there, hopefully. It's really quite shocking. It is working. So we'll start over here. You can see various bits and bobs there. Trying to work out rendering, architecture as well. I was quite happy with this little piece. I think I remember when I did it back in the day. Is that working? Yeah, you got an idea. I also was involved in various theatre groups, so while waiting and performing, I'd sketch of some of the people there. See that? More buildings, some notes and stuff about that. Here we go, there we are. Bits and bobs, more people. There we are. And I'm not amazing at perspective, or drawing people was acceptable but not phenomenal. But I just tinker along, make little notes. Really, it's about learning how architecture works. My dad was an architect, so that was interesting. I'm drawing fellow people at my theatre group. Let's have a look here. Yeah, again, I live not far from docks, so a bit of dockland there. making notes about that. Interestingly, this is again from my theatre group, of various actors performing while we're like waiting and watching the other actors perform in the Young Everyman and Playhouse group. So you have various people who I remember, back in those days, those early 20s, when I was trying to be an actor and going down that route in the UK. A few more sketches, studies of people here. And, obviously I always change people up to like fantasy creatures and stuff. Interestingly, there is Josie Sedgwick Davis, who interestingly is now in the new Chicken Run film as is it Frizzle, the new Frizzle character, the Liverpool character. So it's kind of weird because obviously I work in the stop motion industry a bit, not all the time but a bit, and an old familiar face, that was funny, or voice shall we say, in the new Chicken Run film. So there you go. A few more sketches here. There we go. I always forget that this is flipped. Here we go. That's better. Lime Hall. More bits and bobs. Architecture. Obviously in the UK you get some old Victorian architecture here and there, mingled with modernist stuff. You can see the modernist up here. Box. Tried out some inking, colouring. You can see my style. I just sort of play around with different flavours. Influenced obviously by stuff I grew up on and cartoons and stuff, and I can do something really nice if I spend my time, but I don't always take that time. Is that working? There we go. That's nicer. There we are. A few more. Obviously, the sneaky Lord of the Rings designs coming in there. That's a big influence. Sort of spaceship. And I'm trying out a bit of science fiction stuff. Again, learning from the architecture I'm surrounding myself in. You see, that's just of the Anglican Cathedral, looking, was it westward from Liverpool. Few more little studies and such. Interesting little, was it bathroom, Portaloo, little room house there. Bit of fun. Again, more sketches from acting days, various cartoonifying people I knew, and then obviously this is where I think I started really having fun, where I do a sketch of an environment, and I think this is a moleskine sketchbook, by the way, so I was able to play with the different grades of pencil, and obviously doing a science fiction version of things I'd be watching and looking at and studying. And obviously in the acting days we did Wind in the Willows, so I did a sketch of one of my fellow actors, young actors, as was it a mole or one of the Wind in the Willows type characters that we were performing as. Obviously Wind in the Willows is interesting. It plays on class structure and all the rest of that, and that obviously relates very much to the UK. Is that working? No, it doesn't want to. Yeah, so I'm fairly eclectic, to be honest, with looking at this and my styles. And I'm like that in general when I'm making little short films and stuff. I'll play with one idea, but then I'll change it up. A few more here. Now this is a kind of a turning point. I was heavily involved in the miniature painting groups in Liverpool, and really into miniature painting going forward for Golden Demons and such. So I was heading to Golden Demon Germany, and that was in Cologne, I think. There's 2013, and I was on the plane, and obviously you can see the air hostess there, and I went with John Harrison back in the day, another Liverpool painter, and obviously bits and bobs there. If that's going to work, which it might not. The wing of the plane. Now this is where things really start to get shaked up, you could say, in that I was surrounded in all the European painters at Golden Demon in Germany, and there's all sorts of interesting, obviously, architecture in Cologne, but also I think it's a bit of the fear of dying on the plane, because I hadn't been on a plane in years before then, and it's kind of a bizarre thing to be in. There's sort of this big tube, metal tube in the sky, and on the way back, after that really kind of epic couple days with all these incredible painters and designers and doing these little miniature dioramas and such, I ended up with that, doing that on the plane, and kind of taking a lot off I think Rodney Matthews stuff. You can see there that kind of sort of fantasy, but there's like elements of sort of faith, religion, sort of, you know, I think that's the church, and that was like evil powers or something, and then obviously that was like the world crumbling and someone holding on to, I think it was originally a rosary or something. So interesting little things I was playing with, and I really love that, this kind of funny sort of characters, sort of reminiscent of, I'd say, both Rodney Matthews and like the Brian Froudian kind of elves and such. Yeah, and I was in London when I got back. I got off the plane, I think in Gatwick or something like that, Heathrow, something like that, and I was in London for the day, so I spent some time sketching London. A lot of my London sketches are from this, I think, single day. I just spent the whole day going crazy sketching all these different things around London, and now I live in London kind of permanently, and I'm walking distance from many of these places, so it's kind of, well, it's a long walk, but it's a walking distance. And then I started to really play with this sort of newfound techniques of, like, I called it this, is that going to focus or not? Is it going to focus? Come on, focus for me. It doesn't want to focus, okay. This newfound technique of like this focus planes, of like having things darker, like along here, and then coming lighter, and it gives it obviously that appearance of that light's coming from the front. You can see that here, but also these planes, if you give planes of sharpness and let things kind of fade off, going further back and sharper for the front, and then going back to blur if it goes too far forward. So have this little plane of focus, out of focus, focus, out of focus. It kind of makes things feel like they have more depth, and I was doing definitely a lot of that sort of stuff here, and that sort of playing around with like my life experiences as well. And it's like a little cabin in, you're not sure it's focusing, cabin in the woods sort of thing. Very reminiscent, but it was sort of taken from my childhood, where I lived in the bushland of Australia, and there's this little shed that my dad built, and this is our like back garden, but then there was this massive bush in the back of our house, which you could go and adventure in, you know, but it was very reminiscent of like Hans Christian Andersen stories and stuff, and I was playing with that image, and obviously playing with storytelling here with you know, characters, and you know, what's the story saying, and following the eye following the lines in the story and everything. Now some of these I did in watercolor, and they looked a lot better at the time. They've since faded. I think this isn't a proper moleskine or something, because a lot of these artworks have kind of faded over time, which is kind of sad. There's some nice sketches. I suppose the pencil work still holds up. But yeah, you can see that, gosh, so much of that stuff's faded. So much has faded. But yeah, playing with the ideas of the things I'm looking at. Yeah, we're getting through this. I thought this was a key sketchbook because there's sort of a definite growth from beginning to end. I think Tolkien here. I think I did a trip to Birmingham, so you can even see here elements of Birmingham. Obviously, a lot of this stuff is playing off of the sort of fantasy, but also post-industrialized Birmingham, which Tolkien hated, to be fair. Well, I think he hated. You'll have to, maybe he changed his mind on something. But, it's the old mill, Sawhole Mill, near where Tolkien obviously grew up, which he would have known, playing with, you know, studies and stuff. Some nice little parts around where Tolkien grew up. I did the Tolkien tour, so this is a lot of these images are from that kind of journey. Yep, these are the two towers, apparently, which inspired Tolkien to do his two towers. Growing up as a kid in Birmingham, so I thought that was a key important thing to sketch down, just so you get the idea. You can really see that this one especially seems to be more orthancy, although I think the artists for the movies were inspired a lot of Birmingham University has a big clock tower, and it's very it's very orthancy. I think it was built in the 60s, and I think it's built in the middle of this Birmingham-y forest area, so they obviously had to level a lot of trees, so it really feels a lot like orthanc. So it's kind of interesting if Tolkien was inspired by that taking place, as well as the John Howe and Alan Lee. This is I think it's Birmingham Oratory. That's the Catholic Oratory. I think it is. Just they have this little pool and this little garden out the back. Yeah, that is, I believe, is it a radio tower either in Liverpool or London or somewhere? I don't know. Maybe somewhere. More notes, more bits and bobs. Playing more with watercolor here. You can see stippling effects and stuff. It looks quite nice. Yeah, colorations, working out the colorations you can see of the leaves. Getting towards, I think, winter, so the leaves are starting to fall off the trees. Really quite like that one. That's a bit of fun. I think it was raining when I did that one as well, so I had, and you could tell by the paper it was raining as well, I think. There we go, a bit of that. And we can see a bit of Art Nouveau playing with. Bit of Australian, with like a boomerang, like an Australian possum or something. I think I am quite influenced, to be fair, from weird Australian marsupials, because I grew up obviously in Australia, so I took a lot from that. Studying the Star Wars making ofs and the shapes that they have along, in Empire Strikes Back, around that kind of what do you call it, carbonation, and obviously Beatrix Potter as well. More trees and leaves and bits and bobs. Is that working? Yeah, it's fine. Eyes, playing around with different eyes. It's educational. The problem with me is my mind's a bit of a sieve, so I can get good for a while and then get bad. I'm not sure I'm quite as good as I was back here. I probably am as good, but I just don't rate my artwork as much as the stuff I was doing here. Sort of almost forgot some of the techniques, because you're kind of thinking of multiple things at the same time. When I'm designing characters and shading them in, I'm thinking of multiple levels, whereas now I'm just thinking of, let's do funny big eyes and let's do weird shoulder pads or something, and it's very monodimensional, but this stuff seems to be a bit more layers of stuff. But I was in that zone, so can't get the thing again, can't get the feeling again, as this Barry Manilow would say. I think this was Germany again. I head back to Germany for a miniature diorama workshop, and that was head by Matt Sexwish, who's now involved in the special effects industries and such. I think he's in the games industry now. He was in the special effects industry for quite a while, doing designs. Yeah, we're getting towards the end of it now, so again, just doing some playful sketches. Is that inside the car? Oh, this is Nottingham. I was invited to Nottingham because I won a Golden Demon at Games Day 2013. So we went up there. We were able to do a little look at the studio and stuff in Warhammer World in Nottingham, and obviously I made use of the time, taking sketches of like the Robin Hood trails and stuff, different old. Is it the really ancient pub? Is that the really ancient pub? I can't remember. I think it is. Is it the oldest pub in England or something? I can't remember. Apparently it's the oldest pub in England. I think they had right by the Robin Hood statue. Maid Marian, various things. Young Everyman Playhouse. Playing with different ideas. More trees, leaves. I got really into just spending time either studying groups of leaves or whatever, and this funny little goblin-y, Brian Froudian little monster creature there. It's very nice. Various trees and such. George's Hall in Liverpool, St George's Hall. Probably a bit of inspiration from my St George and the Dragon film, St George's Hall. Just having a big hall called St George's Hall probably just clicks in your brain. You know, Windsor. I think I popped down to Windsor to see I was invited to check out a toy making studio, so that was a busy point in my life actually, and I definitely grew a bit as an artist. Windsor Castle, I think, all this. It's nice to live in the UK where you can do castles. That's kind of cool. Obviously, the Sherlock Holmes Museum had a lot of Victorian memorabilia that is completely inappropriately placed literally everywhere over the building, so there's no way Sherlock Holmes would have a room with that many candlesticks and candelabras, but you know, that's what they wanted to do. Robin Hood statue at Kensington Palace. I quite like that little, some of those trees around Kensington are really old and gnarled, and obviously have been there since the pre-Victorian times probably, so it's interesting. That was a really cool little sketch. I was really proud of that one when I did it. Let's see if I can get it focused. Can I? Sort of focused. I was really proud of that. You know when you do a really good sketch, you're like, how can I do that again? I don't know. Colours worked out well. That's about it, I think. A few little ink sketches, and I always like to leave a little notes on things I learned. I always like to do that last page on just notes on my developmental process, things I learned, things I want to remember that I was using, the pencils, types of pencils I was using, because I'll forget, and I can obviously reread this and kind of get back into my headspace, and obviously different other sketches of various things, caricatures and such. So yeah, that's this sketchbook, this time in my life. Hope you enjoyed. I'll leave you to it.